guys from a podcast called This Podcast is Making Me Thursday Want to Talk to You. And I think and I said, you don't have to tell me what it's about. I said, if it's called This Podcast is Making Me Thirsty, you definitely don't need to tell me what it's about. And I'm going on. This is what I want to do.
It's a Seinfeld podcast. It's called This Podcast is Making Me Thirsty. But I thought, this is what a podcast should be.
I just did the Seinfeld guys pod the other day. I came up with
these pretzels are making me thirsty.
Oh,
that one. Shout out. We've done it. I've done it. Have you did it?
I've not gotten a chance to do it yet. I'm looking forward to it.
It's so fun. They're so fun.
When I don't know, it must have shown up in my feed, but I see these guys tweeting about Seinfeld. I'm like, oh, what's this? And I find it's a podcast called This Podcast is Making Me Thirsty.
One of the most popular Seinfeld podcasts is This Podcast is Making Me Thirsty, co-hosted by Chris O'Hara and Tony Chula.
This Podcast is Making Me Thirsty, the number one destination for Seinfeld fans. This is 2 Up and 2 Down. Here's our producer, Chris, to start us off.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of 2 Up and 2 Down. Today, season 7, we got the pool guy. So, Tony, start us off with the first up. What do you got here?
All right. Full disclosure, I'm usually more prepared when it's my turn to go first. All right. Pool Guy, season 7, David Mandel, friend of the show. We got to give 2 positives and 2 negatives, and then we'll give our grades and analysis sort of at the end here. This is season 7, right? It's Mandel. It's what you'd expect from a season 7 Mandel. What that means, I guess we'll find out. Listen, ups, surprisingly, I have a few to choose from for a season 7, especially. I think though, and O'Hara's probably not going to like this. And that's why this show is great, because I like to hear his take. I'm going to do this just for the fun of it, I think, because I wrote it down, and what the hell? My up is the opening scene. Not a cold open, because they did have they had the regular stand up, but this is what cold opens will kind of branch out. This is kind of that seed a little bit of where cold opens come from, especially with Mandel and the like. They love this stuff. Season 7, 8, 9, the second wave of Harvard writers there that Seinfeld got. They love that, minutia, nothing talk, ba 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 ba. But this one I actually kind of liked. The who would win in a fight. I actually liked this one. I didn't mind it. I thought it was kind of funny. They brought Elaine in, and Gorgeous George, Jerry calls him. I like that line. A little a nod to the old wrestling. And then it's like, Elaine jumps right out. George would win. He fights dirty. And George, full hair, groin stuff. Always a good line. I love that line. I don't know. It gives you a little sense into Costanza. He's a lying, deceitful guy. Why wouldn't he be doing this fighting dirty stuff? Pull out all costs. Kind of a silly throwaway, obviously cold open type-ish conversation that typically I don't like. But this one kind of played well because it was at least grounded in something there. And I like when Jerry has different names for George. Biff, obviously, a lot of times, Georgie Boy. But I like the Gorgeous George here. Good little line. And then the whole George with the groin stuff. So, a little nod here to a Mandela season 7. I'll give that as my first up.
Yeah, I actually had that down as an up myself, so I think that's a good choice. So over to you, Chris. What do you got to say? What's your first?
Interesting there. I'm not against it. Didn't love it. Didn't hate it. I didn't even put it down. That's what I thought of it. But you mentioned Mandel. Again, Dave Mandel wrote this. The Pool Guy aired November 16th of 1995, a fun year. 33.5 million people watched it that night. Can I tell you why? Well, it was a well-oiled machine, but ABC had Skates of Gold on, ice skating. CBS had Rock and Roll Revolution, and Fox always put New York Undercover against Seinfeld. Talk about zero competition. So a layup for Mandel, no matter what he put out there. But what did he put out there? Let's get to it. You know what? Because I feel I can relate to this. The scene where Jerry buzzes, he thinks it's George and it's Ramon, and Ramon comes up and he's all right, Elaine, you stay, please. And then boom, right when she sees Ramon, she's out of there. I laughed out loud at that. Great job by Elaine. But then Jerry trying to lose Ramon. Oh, I got stuff to do. I got to get going. I mean, listen, a few years ago at work, I was leaving work with this guy. He was with me. He asked me what train I'm taking. I went home. I got home an hour and a half later just to get that to lose this guy. So I've been there. I took another train. I went uptown to go back downtown just to lose this guy. So I could feel that. I could feel with Jerry. He was trying to lose this guy, and obviously Ramon went nuts. Is it because I'm in the pool? I'm a pool guy. Da da da. I didn't get confronted about it. I just, made up a story. But unbelievable stuff. I thought that was well done from start to finish with the whole Elaine thing, and then obviously him trying to lose Ramon. I have enough friends. The whole thing. Enjoyed that scene. So that's my first up.
And especially as we get older, it's like, you just don't have any more room for friends in your life. It's like you're set, you have your friends, and that's it. No more, nobody's coming into that bubble anymore. So that's kind of is relatable. So yeah, good up there. So Tony, back to you. What's your second up?
Yeah, I had the same thing written down. Elaine walks out the door as soon as the guy gets there. And then I'm up for some stuff. Jerry had no idea what to say. There, oh shit! Like the guy just is up for some stuff. By the way, if that guy's watching right now, O'Hara was an asshole. He should have stuck with you the whole time. He lost you in the city. Guy's probably watching right now. You bastard. No, I get it. I've done that. But I stick with the person. Next thing I know, I'm the best friend for 3 years. I don't even want to be. So that shows where I go with it. Anyway, listen. I'm going to take a half a matzo ball here. My second up is the Worlds Collide Kramer part of it. Just Kramer kind of telling Jerry right off the bat, like that's going to be trouble as soon as he did it. And, describing the Worlds Collide. We talked about this with Mandel. Mandel had a true life story here that he kind of fit in. He told us the whole thing on that.
We'll get credit where credit is due. The thematic, the worlds colliding, the girlfriend, Susan becoming friends with Elaine and basically. And again, as these things are, it was based on something real. So it was based on a friend's girlfriend and that very similar situation. And it was sort of the same equivalent of her using our friend terminology and her sort of trying to get in on the private jokes. If that, what you saw there. So that was the pitch. That was what they approved for Elaine. They really liked it, blah, 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 blah. However, and I'll be really clear about this, George divided against himself, and I'm pretty sure the phrasing of Worlds Collide, that's all Larry and Jerry. That's because you would hand your script in, and then they would kind of take a pass usually, and then that would go to table read. Later, the other experience sometimes, which was great, was sometimes they would just take it to the table, read it, which was a really fun experience, and then often do a rewrite. But they always took a pass on it. And honestly, I can't remember if it went to the table or not first, but it doesn't matter. Right. It went through, and so I am more than happy and proud to say that the thing people remember most about it is what they said, so what they wrote. So yes, right. But the idea, the worlds colliding concept, that was my pitch. So yes.
I also kind of like George's first description of it as well, coming in on Jerry, and Jerry's like, oh yeah, the worlds collide. Like, you needed someone to tell you about it. Like, just those two, did it maybe get played out? We'll get there where there's some things I didn't like. Yes. But I thought the concept is great. The same as O'Hara mentioned, that other concept, losing the friend. I mean, there's some good concepts, which a lot of season 7, 8, 9 is. And the Kramer, telling Jerry all about it. And then George kind of coming in the first time and being like, dude, what the hell are you doing? Those two right there, that's my second up.
Oh yeah, you had to go there. Worlds Collide is such a great concept to put into this show. So I think they did a great job with it. So all right, Chris, over to you. What's your second up?
Second up for the pool guy. It's funny. I got a decent amount of ups here, but they're not. It's not strong. Not strong ups. And I always I'm a big, when I'm online at the movies, I always enjoy that. So I'll take that scene, Jerry and Kramer at the movies where they first meet Ramon. Look at me, I'm going all in on Ramon today. What's in the deep end, that whole thing. But I actually enjoyed So they shift away from that. And I like the quick discussion on like move over a seat. Like if we were on the couch together, you wouldn't sit. Like smart, kind of stand-up type writing there. And then obviously he notices Ramon and Jerry's like, hey, let's pretend you're talking to me. And Kramer's like, well, we are talking. And then Kramer goes on. I think he said he murdered someone, but they found the guy. Whatever it was, very funny stuff. And obviously Ramon just plops right in the middle, and obviously frustrates Jerry beyond belief. But the movies, we're at the movies, and I don't know. It's Jerry and Kramer. I don't recall they're usually not together at the movies. So them on a standalone, whatever mandate, whatever you want to call it. Pretty interesting. A little twist there by Mandel. So that was good to see. And then obviously Ramon sneaking in to frustrate Jerry. Enjoyable little scene there. So that's my second up.
Yeah, another great scene. And Ramon, he brought extra napkins and he offered, so that's good of Ramon. So all right, that's the 2 ups from each of you. So Tony, start us off with your first down. What do you have?
Yeah, listen, everything I just mentioned, I had written down for ups. Actually, we're on the same page there. The pretend we're talking, the buffer zone, loved both of those. Please, you're still looking for me, Kramer says, but we are talking. All that stuff was great. Later on, Kramer and Jerry go to the movies, with the whole bootlegging guy. But you're right, this might have been the first time they did it. Kind of there, kicked it off. All right, so those were the ups. I have a couple more I might touch on during the grades, but listen, the downs. I mean, I have to start with what for me is what really hurts this episode, because it's not a bad episode. We just went through a lot of ups. But I mean, this is a Costanza. This is where Costanza starts to turn. Maybe it's before this. I got to look more into details, but let's just say this one sticks out when he's in the movie theater, just screaming and yelling. And I'm done. I mean, this episode should have ended, 50, if this was a 15-minute episode, we would have been golden, but we had to have this last 10 minutes of George just yelling in a movie theater, just screaming and yelling in a movie theater. I mean, come on. Hey, you sure they're right there? The guy finally says, I mean, they tied the Kramer part into it. I won't go there. I'll just say George in the movie theater, just yelling and yelling and yelling for them. I'm just done with that. It's the Costanza we don't like, and it's a big down for me.
We know that's a down for you. So thank you, Tony. Over you, Chris. What's your first down?
Lying and laughing and lying. I'm like, oh, cringeworthy. I mean, and
Terrible.
even before that, George is getting upset. I'm like, ho, like a lot of ho-hos, a lot of George getting upset. I mean, the Yankee posters saved all those scenes, but all right, I'm gonna
Pride and Power. I had it on my wall.
Yeah, incredible stuff. But I'm gonna go the Elaine Susan stuff. I don't know. No, all right, we get it. Elaine doesn't have any friends that are girls, but that's not true. Like, I don't know. She, again, the Pendant Girls back in the day, playing cards. What, she lose all those people? I get it. You switch jobs, you don't talk to them anymore. I get it to some degree, but yes, she hangs out with them, but I felt like she did have another social circle. Obviously, they didn't show us often, but and I don't know. Maybe maybe Susan just fell flat. Like, I don't know. Walking down the street, I don't know what their conversation was. Then she's like, "Oh, I'll put in the vault." Like, put what in the vault? And like, I would have liked if they actually like extended that scene so we could kind of learn what they're talking about. So everything was just like, and then maybe they did and they cut it because they had to put the 2 guys at the pool in or something. I don't know, but something was amiss there. And it just didn't. I get it. They set that up to do the world colliding thing, but like Susan just fell flat. I think Susan always fell flat outside of season 4. I mean, let's be honest, right? So didn't love that. The whole scene with George is picking up the phone, that red phone, and oh, you sure, Elaine? Didn't like the whole thing. So the Elaine Susan storyline, which was a big part of it, is my first down.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Tony, back to you. Your second up. Fill us in here.
Yeah, listen, hey, I'm sensing that was more of an Elaine down, but you did touch on Susan too. I wrote Susan in my up department. I thought she had a pretty good episode. Love when she calls him Georgie boy. I had her in my ups. I didn't give her an up, like, on record, but I didn't totally think she was a down. I thought Elaine was. I agree with that. I thought Elaine was not great. But you just took that. Like I said, the Georgian yelling. I have a double down on George yelling, but I'm not gonna go there. I'm gonna have to take this big one here for my second down is Ramon's friends. I mean, come on. Someone tweeted them out when we asked for like the most annoying character, whatever. I mean, that's the two weirdest people I've ever seen in my life. They were like an SNL skit or something. I don't know what the hell those guys were. Oh, Ramon says you. Who are these guys? What are you doing? I just can't. I can't even wrap my head around them. They're like good and they're just so weird that I have to give them a down. They're just so in your face awkward. There's nothing else to do but give them a down. I'm just like, what is going on right now? It's just terrible. So that's actually my second down. I have a lot of other stuff I could kind of touch on, but I'm gonna go with that because I got to get it out there. I actually, while we're here, I didn't mind Ramon. I really didn't. I didn't give him an up. I didn't give him a down. I thought Ramon, anytime I watch it, sometimes I don't like him, sometimes I like him. That's probably a good acting job by the guy. That was his whole thing. But his friends, forget about it. I'm done with that. So that was my down there.
I actually kind of, this is an episode I haven't seen in a while, and when those guys came on, I actually did laugh because they are like so, unbelievable. Like, who are these guys? Like, but they look like they would be type of friends that Ramon would have at the pool. So anyway, but I get it. I get it for a down. So Chris, over to you. What's your second down?
I had those two guys as an up. Something about him. Schmidt's right. I mean, hey,
like I said, it kind of can be an up in a weird way, but
oh god, like it was just enough of them, and yeah, what can I tell you? Those guys, the kookies can be, but an up for me. All right, this episode's called The Pool Guy, and I don't typically look at titles, but it probably should have been called Worlds Colliding, but I think that's going to be my down. I mean, I think pieces of it were good, but there were over 14 mentions of worlds colliding. Like, enough already. It's just completely beating a dead horse on a premise, which I get it, but just like, how many scenes are we going to have it about worlds colliding? Like, every single scene. Oh, hey, Jerry didn't know about this, and then George comes in, and then Lane comes in, and you're running into that of George. I don't know. It just went a little too far for my liking. Yeah, listen, I love Mandel, but, sometimes less is more. And I think that should have been the case here. So, yeah, it's the premise of the show, and there's too much of it, So usually, sometimes if something's so good, there's nothing like too much of a good thing. Not the case here. They should have cut it after the Kramer thing, to be honest. And then maybe when George came back once, but over 14, 15 mentions, way overboard. So worlds colliding, down.
All right. Well, thank you, Chris. So that means we are going to the final grades and your thoughts here of the entire episode. So Tony, what do you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I prefaced my up was Kramer describing it and George describing it once. I had another down was George coming in going nuts about it, ceases to exist, this whole thing there, him yelling at Susan about it. I agree with O'Hara's point there, but I thought the early on and the premise was good. Did they take it too far? Yes, that's what season 7, 8, 9 is all about, having a good premise and kind of stretching it. This, though, wasn't as bad as others. This is not 8 and 9 terrible, I don't think, in my opinion. We're not, I'm nowhere near F range with this episode, is what I mean by that. I mean, it's tight enough for a season 7. The Pride and Power poster mentioned, that gives it a notch or two in my book. I had it on my wall. It wasn't. I thought I was going to hate it again on rewatch. To Schmidt's point, Ramon. I didn't hate Ramon. I kind of liked him. I didn't even mind Susan that much. Georgie boy, one of the best scenes I think of the whole show. We didn't give it an up or down. Is when George comes in and they're all sitting at the booth, and George is just like 1, 2, 3, 4, and just walks out. I mean, that's a solid little George right there. Susan in the booth, very not giving mouth to mouth. That's pretty good. I'm in Newman like mouth to mouth. I'm not going there. Gotta like that. We mentioned the buffer zone stuff. The scene O'Hara gave it up to was solid. What I'm getting at here is I'm between two grades. I wish O'Hara went first because I would love to know what he thinks. I think he's going lower than me no matter what. I definitely know he's going to go lower than me if I give my higher grade here. Because my higher grade, is sniffing the bees, and I know O'Hara's tough on sevens. So I kind of want to go. I'm between two. I just think Costanza brings this episode down. If Costanza's bringing an episode down, I can't go too high. If anyone else, I could have went there, but because of that, and some of the things we pointed out, I'm going to give the pool guy a C plus. I think it's fair. I could have went B minus, but I just don't think it's there. So I'm going to go C plus on the season 7 pool guy, Mandel.
All right, yeah, thank you, Tony. And I want to point out, there's one Susan scene that I like is when she's in the movie theater with Susan. Susan's in the movie theater with Elaine and Jerry, and Elaine and Jerry are talking, and she shushes them, and they both look at each other, and they just like roll their eyes, and I thought that was a great little scene there too. But yeah, so I thought Susan was fine. But yeah, overall, I think a C plus kind of fits here. So. Chris, over to you. What do you have for your final grade here?
Interesting. And we keep adding on scenes and points. I mean, this almost feels like an hour episode. It's like, and we didn't even talk about Kramer and the movie phone. That whole bit, which wasn't bad. And Tony always says, I wish I went first. But, worlds colliding. Okay, the Kramer thing was good. Yeah, meeting Ramon. Ramon's not bad. I'll give you that. The two little guys are funny. Newman coming in, no real role other than doing a cannonball. Okay, in his little singlet or whatever he's wearing.
Yeah, the oxen free.
Yeah, okay. And I actually did like Jerry explaining the CPR. Yeah, it was a gamble. Funny, just like pockets of funny, but like you just said, George was a down, and Elaine's a down. And when those two are downs, my theory. I mean, it's sometimes worse. Is the Yankee poster going to elevate it? No, it's not. It's not going to elevate it. Ramon and Jerry fighting in the pool. I also has it down. Like, I know what you're doing, Ramon. And by the way, do you see him swimming? It's like, isn't that an Olympic pool? It's like he goes back and forth like real quick. George is bad. Elaine's bad. I know you guys love Susan. Georgie boy's not going to do it for me on this one. I mean, God, the way I'm talking, I might make it lower. But I won't because, I love to have Ramon on the program. Mandel, friend of the show. But am I going to turn off the pool guy? Probably not. But at the end of the day, the pool guy's a C minus. Right there. I had a C, but it would be a low C. But C minus, 72, not terrible. So yeah, C minus for the pool guy.
Yeah, like you said, you're going to tune it in. You want to see the Worlds Collide material and all that stuff. You want to see the K-Man on the doing movie phone guy. So yeah, other than that, right, it's average. So I think these scores are right on. So I want to thank you guys again for another episode, and I thank our viewers for tuning in, and we'll see you guys on our next episode.